The death of a dynasty. The end of the Mongol Khans. The Mongol Empire at its zenith was the largest contiguous empire in world history, stretching from the steppes of Central Asia to the shores of the Pacific Ocean, and from the icy wastes of Siberia to the deserts of Persia. This vast empire was built by one man, Genghis Khan, whose conquests redefined the world order in the 13th century. However, after Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the once unified empire began a slow and inevitable process of fragmentation. The Mongol Khans, his sons and grandsons, continued to rule vast territories, but without Genghis Khan's unifying vision and iron grip, the empire splintered, setting the stage for its eventual demise. This video explores the decline of the Mongol Khans, focusing on the challenges faced by their successors, the political fragmentation of the empire, and how the Mongol world ultimately unraveled. The legacy of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's rise to power is the stuff of legend. Born as Temujin in the 1160s, he united the fractured Mongol tribes through a combination of charisma, military genius, and brutal tactics. By the time of his death in 1227, Genghis had built an empire that spanned much of Asia, including China, Central Asia, Persia, and parts of Eastern Europe. His military campaigns and administrative reforms laid the foundation for the Mongol Empire's success. Genghis Khan's successors were not only his sons and grandsons, but also the elite generals and officials who had helped him build the empire. These men, often known as the Mongol banners, wielded enormous power. However, Genghis Khan was not just a conqueror. He was a statesman, capable of binding together his vast empire through laws, trade, and a shared Mongol identity. His ability to balance power, reward loyalty, and integrate diverse peoples under a common cause was one of his greatest strengths. After his death, however, the Mongol Empire faced a series of challenges that would lead to its eventual fragmentation and decline. Kublai Khan, the grandson who tried to hold it together. One of Genghis Khan's most capable heirs was Kublai Khan, the grandson who rose to prominence as the ruler of the Mongol Empire's eastern territories. Kublai is perhaps best known for his conquest of China, which culminated in the establishment of the Yuan Dynasty in 1271. Kublai's reign marked a high point in Mongol history as he consolidated control over the Chinese heartland, established a centralized bureaucracy, and encouraged cultural exchange between East and West. However, Kublai's success was also the beginning of the empire's fragmentation. The empire was simply too large and too diverse to be effectively governed by a single ruler. Kublai's decision to focus on China and make it the central power of the Mongol world left the western parts of the empire, ruled by his cousins in Persia and the steppes, growing increasingly distant. These regions had different priorities, languages, and cultures, which made any attempts at unified governance increasingly difficult. Political fragmentation and civil war. The Mongol Empire had always been a loose confederation of territories under the authority of a single great Khan. After Genghis Khan's death, however, this system began to unravel. The empire was divided into 4 major khanates, each ruled by a different branch of the Mongol royal family. Number 1, the Yuan Dynasty, China and Mongolia, ruled by Kublai Khan. Number 2, the Ilkhanate, Persia and parts of the Middle East, ruled by Hulagu Khan, another of Genghis Khan's grandsons. Number 3, the Chagatai Khanate, Central Asia, ruled by the descendants of Genghis's second son, Chagatai. Number 4, the Golden Horde, Russia and Eastern Europe, initially ruled by Batu Khan, a son of Jebe and another of Genghis's grandsons. While these khanates remained nominally loyal to the Great Khan, the central authority began to weaken over time. Disputes over succession, Territorial boundaries and local autonomy were common, and the once unified empire fragmented into warring factions. The rivalry between Kublai Khan and his cousins, especially with the Ilkhans in the west and the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, further fractured Mongol unity. The lack of strong, centralized leadership led to infighting among the ruling families. Kublai Khan's successors struggled to hold on to power, while the leaders of the other khanates increasingly pursued their own agendas. The death of Kublai in 1294 left a power vacuum, and internal dissent grew as his descendants failed to maintain the same degree of authority and legitimacy that he had held. Economic strain and decline. Another significant factor contributing to the downfall of the Mongol Empire was economic strain. While the Mongols had initially facilitated trade and cultural exchange along the Silk Road, this gradually began to break down. As the various khanates became more insular and focused on local concerns, the intercontinental trade routes that had once been vital to the empire's economy became less secure. In addition, Kublai's Yuan Dynasty faced economic collapse, exacerbated by overspending on military campaigns and infrastructural projects, as well as a devastating series of floods, famines, and plagues. In the Ilkhanate, the division between nomadic Mongol elites and the sedentary Persian population also created tensions, making it difficult for the Mongols to govern effectively. The Ilkhanate eventually collapsed in the mid-14th century, beset by internal strife and external invasions, notably from the Timurids, a Turkic Mongol dynasty that sought to carve out its own empire in the region. The end of the Mongol Khans. By the mid-14th century, the Mongol Empire had ceased to exist as a unified entity. Kublai Khan's Yuan dynasty was overthrown by the Ming dynasty in 1368, marking the formal end of Mongol rule in China. The Golden Horde, despite its power, faced internal rebellions and invasions from Russia, which ultimately led to its fragmentation in the 15th century. The Chagatai Khanate and the Ilkhanate likewise disintegrated into smaller competing states, eventually fading into obscurity. The Mongols, once a force of unparalleled military prowess, had seen their empire crumble under the weight of internal divisions, economic decline, and the inability to maintain the unity that Genghis Khan had forged. The death of a dynasty was not just the fall of an empire. It was the end of an era in world history, where a single nomadic people had managed to reshape the global landscape, only to watch their creation collapse in the face of political and economic realities. Conclusion. The end of the Mongol Khans was the result of a combination of factors: the lack of strong leadership after Genghis Khan's death, the political fragmentation of the empire into rival khanates, economic challenges, and the inability to adapt to the changing world. Though the Mongol Empire left a lasting legacy on the Silk Road, trade, and Eurasian culture, the death of Genghis Khan marked the beginning of the Mongols' decline. In the end, the Mongol dynasty became a reminder of how the ambition of one man could build an empire. But without cohesive leadership and unity, even the mightiest of empires can unravel.